One of the most underrated aspects of weight loss is getting enough sleep. Even if you're doing everything right, you can still get stuck losing weight. Sleep unlocks that barrier. I drive this home for each of my clients. You can use your sleep to burn more fat. What you learn in this video makes an enormous difference. We'll get into the 6 surprising ways sleep helps with fat loss. Then we'll talk about the side effects of a bad sleep. And finally, how we can get better sleep so that we're optimizing our health and our fat burning capabilities. Everything gets better and easier with proper sleep. How good your sleep is depends on 2 things: the duration of your sleep and the quality of your sleep. In other words, how long you sleep for and how deep it is. So how much sleep do you need? The conclusions of decades of clinical research recommends that you need between 7 and 9 hours of sleep per night. But how does sleep help with fat loss? That's why we're here, to lose weight. So here's 6 reasons how enough sleep helps you on your weight loss journey. The first reason is the amount of fat you'll burn while asleep. Studies have found that those who sleep for longer durations and with higher quality tend to achieve better weight loss results. For example, one study explored the relationship between sleep duration and weight loss during a 24-week calorie deficit. It was found that there was a positive association between sleep duration and fat mass lost. In other words, those who slept for longer each night on average saw greater total fat loss than those who slept for less, even though the calorie deficit was the same across the board. Furthermore, a similar study explored the relationship between sleep duration and weight maintenance after an initial weight loss program, and it was found that the subjects who had a longer average sleep duration saw more successful maintenance of their weight loss and even continued to lose more weight. Subjects who slept less on average tended to regain more weight after the weight loss program. So on a weight loss journey, we want to lose weight by losing fat, but preserving muscle, right? We've spoken about that a good bit. Exercise and a high protein diet will help maintain that muscle while you're in a calorie deficit. But sleep also helps massively. Sleep is so important for fat loss because sleep is one of the most powerful tools for optimizing your body's ability to burn fat and preserve muscle. Studies show that if you're chronically not getting enough sleep, you actually build fat while losing muscle. But if you do get enough sleep, you can burn lots of fat while building muscle. It's the opposite way around. A longer sleep duration can promote greater retention of muscle mass and subsequently a greater loss of fat mass. For example, research published in the Annals of Internal Medicine found that people on a calorie-restricted diet who slept only 5.5 hours per night lost less fat and more muscle compared to those who slept 8.5 hours per night. If your sleep is not optimal, then your body will not burn fat as optimally. It won't burn through as much fat as it would with good sleep, and instead it starts burning through more muscle instead. It's like a trade-off. A big reason for this is the effect it has on growth hormone, which is prominent during deep sleep, promoting fat oxidation and muscle repair. Another reason sleep really affects your weight loss journey is the effect it has on some of your other hormones. Sleep has a huge effect on hunger and satiety hormones too. We spoke before about the hormone in your body called ghrelin, which is responsible for stimulating hunger. And then another hormone which works in tandem with ghrelin, leptin if you remember, which is responsible for suppressing hunger. Studies have found that sleep restriction can result in significant decreases in leptin and significant increases in ghrelin. So a lack of sleep causes hunger to not be suppressed as well, and at the same time stimulates hunger more. In other words, insufficient sleep will increase our hunger levels and decrease our perception of fullness, increasing the likelihood of consuming far more calories. This will obviously make it more of a challenge to stick to a calorie deficit. Your hunger can become so much more overwhelming during the day if you haven't had enough sleep. A third reason, it's such an obvious one, but the less sleep we get, the more our total time awake is, obviously. The more time we're awake, the more time there is to eat and overeat, the more opportunity there is for consumption, especially in the evening. The later we stay up at night, the more prone we are to snacking on junk food. And our willpower and motivation will wane as we become more tired. Now, I'm not saying to sleep your life away and then hey, you'll never have to get hungry, but be aware that the longer you stay awake at night, when you're already tired but you're scrolling through your phone or watching TV, is extra time that you're going to be swayed by snacks and more food. And that brings us into reason number 4. A lack of proper sleep can affect your mood and motivation. One study that explored the effects of sleep restriction on various different states of mood found that, not surprisingly, when sleep was restricted, subjects reported greater fatigue and greater anxiety too, and overall mood disturbances compared with a well-rested state. So of course, this worsened mood will influence your motivation and effort to stick to a calorie deficit. If you sleep poorly, you're more likely to be irritated by the smallest things. So it's logical that a poor mood will likely result in poorer devotion to sticking with a calorie deficit. This can escalate further because a poor mood will make you more likely to binge eat. One bite of chocolate when your motivation is low or you're fatigued or in a bad irritable mood, and you're much more likely to say screw it, I'm eating the whole family-sized bar. And a tub of ice cream too, why not? I don't care anymore. So getting enough sleep protects against that mindset. So bad sleep affects your motivation for maintaining a calorie deficit, and similar to that, bad sleep will also affect your motivation for exercise. If you're fatigued and your mood is low due to poor sleep, the chances increase of you just sitting in front of the TV for the evening and neglecting getting your steps in. A reminder that just getting in the bare minimum is so beneficial on days like this. 1 minute rule, just get your shoes on, step outside. And so often, you might surprise yourself and find that it perks you up so much and clears your head that you end up just continuing your walk way longer than you had anticipated. And of course, also, if your mood is so low that you don't bother going for any walk, that's more time you have of sitting at home, sitting in front of the TV or whatever, where there's more chance of you reaching for comfort foods. And the 6th reason how enough sleep helps you on your weight loss journey. We talked in a previous video about metabolism and how there are many factors that can contribute to a higher metabolism. A higher metabolism means your body will burn more calories just to carry out its basic functions. Quality sleep plays a vital role in your metabolic processes and is one more big factor in ensuring a higher metabolism. Poor sleep is linked to insulin resistance and slower fat metabolism. So with all those factors combined, studies show that people not getting sufficient sleep often consume 200 to 300 extra calories per day on average. Okay, that's the 6 ways sleep helps with fat loss, but all of that is pointless if you can't get a good night's sleep. So before we get into that, it's vital to know the pitfalls of a bad sleep. We talked before about how important it is to not cut your calories by too much. There is a minimum amount of calories you should be getting each day. If you remember, that is about 50% of your total metabolic rate. An extreme calorie deficit will have very negative consequences. Your skin will look awful and dry, your eyes will look tired and sunken, you'll have constant fatigue and brain fog, impacting your work or studies or things like driving. You'll be irritable, which will affect the relationships with those around you. You'll have a weakened immune system and crazy hormonal imbalances. You'll start losing muscle instead of fat. Severely restricting calories will have so many negative effects on your body and your life, including also your sleep. Extreme deficits make it harder to sleep. And then that bad quality sleep, in turn, will affect your diet in all the ways I just mentioned. Less fat burning, more muscle wastage, more hunger, less motivation, worse moods, more fatigue. It creates this vicious cycle. So this is your reminder not to go into an extreme calorie deficit. Keep your calories above 50% of your total metabolic rate each day. So sleep is vital for fat loss. But unfortunately, we live in this society where sleep is sort of demonized. People are proud of the fact that they get little sleep. They'll proudly say to their friends, I only got 5 hours sleep last night. I was up at 4:30. It's like a badge of honor. But having such a lack of sleep is so bad for your health. For example, deep sleep activates the brain's cleansing system, which removes a harmful toxin linked to Alzheimer's disease. Without adequate sleep, this toxin builds up, elevating the risk of developing dementia later in life. Sleep deprivation disrupts the reproductive system. Men who get only 5 to 6 hours of sleep per night exhibit testosterone levels similar to those a decade older, meaning a lack of sleep could age you by 10 years in terms of virility. The cardiovascular system is also vulnerable when you don't get enough sleep. Deep sleep acts as a blood pressure regulator, lowering heart rate and blood pressure. Without enough sleep, you're not getting that reboot of the cardiovascular system, so your blood pressure rises. If you're getting 6 hours of sleep or less, you have a 200% increased risk of having a fatal heart attack or a stroke in your lifetime. The impact of sleep loss is especially evident during daylight saving time changes. In the spring, when clocks go forward and we lose 1 hour of sleep, there's a 24% increase in heart attacks the following day. Sleep deprivation has a big impact on the immune system too. For example, just one night of bad sleep, 4 to 5 hours of sleep, can lead to a 70% reduction in cells that combat cancer. This significant decrease is why short sleep durations are linked to an increased risk of various cancers, like bowel cancer, prostate cancer, and breast cancer. The connection is so clear that the World Health Organization has classified night shift work as a probable carcinogen due to its disruption of sleep cycles. So doing shift work can literally cause cancer due to how disruptive it is to your sleep. The body needs a regular pattern of sleep and being awake. Once you've been awake for 16 hours, after that is when we start to see mental deterioration and physical deterioration in the body. After you've been awake for longer, 19 or 20 hours, your mental capacity is so impaired that if you were driving a car, you would be the same level of deficient as someone who is legally drunk. So it's pretty clear that a lack of quality sleep wreaks absolute havoc on the brain and the body. There needs to be a shift in mindset from this thinking that too much sleep is weak or lazy. The smart person will make sure they're getting enough sleep so that they're not susceptible to all these diseases and damage. And of course, as I've gone through already, sufficient sleep is so much more beneficial to your weight loss efforts. The recycle rate of a human being for a 24-hour day is about 16 hours awake and 8 hours asleep. In other words, we generally need about 8 hours of sleep for every 16 we spend awake in order for the body to repair any damage that occurs during wakefulness. A common question is, what about naps? You've likely experienced that afternoon slump where drowsiness sets in and your focus diminishes. While you might blame this on a big lunch maybe, it's actually an innate response. Studies with electrode monitoring show that there's this pre-programmed drop in your brain's alertness during the afternoon. And it happens to most of us somewhere between the 1 to 4 p.m. mark. Naps can have benefits for both the brain and for the body, but they can be a double-edged sword. Long naps in the late afternoon or in the early evening can just take the edge off your sleepiness before your actual bedtime. It's a little bit like snacking before your main meal. So if you're struggling with sleep at night, the best advice is not to nap during the day. Instead, build up all of that healthy sleepiness so that you give yourself the best chance of falling asleep easily and then staying asleep soundly across the night. But if you're not struggling with sleep at night and you can nap regularly during the day without it affecting your nighttime sleep, then naps of around 20 minutes taken early in the day can be just fine. Don't feel guilty about taking naps, just like you shouldn't feel guilty about getting enough sleep at night. Lots of people directly correlate sleep and naps with laziness. This is ridiculous. Your body needs 7 to 9 hours a day. Just like you need food and drink to survive, you also need proper sleep. Make sure you get it. Don't get caught up in this ridiculous bravado of showing off that you don't get much sleep. You'll likely pay for it later in your life. So we've talked about the reasons sleep helps with fat loss, and then about the pitfalls of a bad sleep. As I say to my clients, all that is pointless if you don't do something about it. We'll talk now about 9 ways to get a better sleep, some of them a little unusual, and then a little note on caffeine too. So how can we get a better sleep? We can all have a bad night of sleep here and there, and that's perfectly normal. But how could we try to improve both the long-term quantity and the quality of our sleep? The first tip is regularity. Going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time. Regularity is king for sleep. Regularity will anchor your sleep and improve both the quantity and the quality. And the reason is because deep within your brain, you actually have this master 24-hour clock. It expects regularity and works best under conditions of regularity, including the control of your sleep-wake schedule. So try and stick to a regular bedtime and a regular wake-up time, no matter whether it's the weekday or the weekend, or even if you had a bad night of sleep previously. The second tip, it seems obvious, but be mindful of darkness. We need darkness. Not just during the night I'm talking about, but specifically in the evening, in the lead up to bedtime. This is to trigger the release of a hormone called melatonin. What is melatonin? Melatonin helps regulate the healthy timing of our sleep. Screen time is something that can really mess with melatonin. So in the last hour before bed, try to stay away from screens, your phone, your laptop, your TV if you can. Dim down the lights in your house. You might be surprised at how sleepy that can make you feel. Have a wind down routine. I think many of us in the modern world, we expect to be able to dive into bed at night, switch off the light, and we think that sleep is also just like a light switch, that we should immediately be able to fall asleep. Well, unfortunately, sleep isn't quite like that for most of us. Sleep, as a physiological process, is much more similar to landing a plane. It takes time for your brain to gradually descend down onto the firm runway and then taxi to its parking bay, and it's there where it will get good sleep. Most of us use an alarm to wake up in the morning, but very few people use a bedtime alarm, and that's something that can be helpful for maintaining regularity. Maybe you can set an alarm an hour before your bedtime to remind you to get into your bedtime routine, to start reducing your screen time, to turn off bright lights around the house, and to do something relaxing like reading a book or stretching, even if it's just a few minutes. And don't lay in bed on your phone, or lay in your bed awake for long periods of time. Your brain is an incredibly associative device. Try not to let your brain associate the bed with wakefulness. You need to break that association. Try to only lie in bed when you're sleepy. And don't lie in bed for too long after waking up. That way, gradually, your brain will associate your bed as nothing else except this place of good, consistent sleep. And don't drink too much before bedtime so that you lessen the chances of needing to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. If you do wake up in the middle of the night, don't worry about that. It's completely normal. Just don't stimulate your brain or your eyes too much when you do. Don't check your phone or turn on bright lights if you can help it. When you're in bed, you can wear an eye mask or you can have blackout shades on your window to help improve darkness, and that too will help regulate melatonin, that sleepy hormone. You can try things like earplugs to block out noise. There's a little bit of a personal preference here and it's context dependent. They're great to block out noise, but it can be really annoying for some people, so that one's just up to you really. For some people, silence can tend to amplify internal thoughts, or make external noises like traffic or a barking dog more noticeable. In these cases, background noise can be really beneficial. Playing white noise or brown noise on your phone or on a speaker provide a consistent sound to mask sudden noises. Or rain sounds or ocean sounds or nature sounds which have a calming effect. A fan or air purifier can create this steady, soothing noise too, while also improving air circulation. Which brings us nicely to the next point about temperature while you're in bed. Try and keep it cool if you can. Your brain and your body need to drop their core temperature by about 1 degree Celsius, which is around 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit. Your body needs that drop in temperature in order to initiate sleep and then to stay asleep. And this is the reason that you will always find it easier to fall asleep in a room that's too cold rather than one that's too hot. The current recommendation is to aim for a bedroom temperature of around about 65 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a little over 18 degrees Celsius. Taking a hot shower or a hot bath to try and decrease your body's temperature can help prepare your body for sleep. It's a bit counterintuitive, taking a hot shower, but the hot water actually causes your body to lower its core body temperature as it tries to cool down from the hot shower. For morning time, the opposite is true. While you're asleep, if your body temperature rises by the same amount as before, 1 degree Celsius or 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit, you're likely to wake up. This increased body temperature triggers waking up, and it's usually associated with an increase in a hormone called cortisol. When cortisol is elevated first thing in the morning after waking, it enhances your immune system and enhances your metabolism too. It also enhances your ability to focus and your ability to move your body. This is another one of the many hormones that are vital for proper functioning of the body. And what helps proper hormone production? Getting enough dietary fat. It's all interconnected, the whole weight loss system. So I hope you made sure at least once that you've got enough dietary fat in your day. Improve one aspect of your weight loss system and it has a knock-on improvement on another aspect. It's all interconnected. So you want that hormone cortisol to reach its peak right about the time you wake up in order to leverage this temperature effect to feel more awake. Something that will increase core body temperature and raise cortisol levels is getting movement in first thing in the morning. It doesn't have to be frantic exercise. I like to get outdoors and get some steps in first thing in the morning, even if it's just a few minutes. If you did that, your body temperature increases, your cortisol rises, and as a result, you'll feel much more alert. Another benefit of getting some steps in first thing in the morning is that you'll get natural sunlight. Seeing bright sunlight in the first hour after waking is another factor that triggers those cortisol levels to rise, enhancing your alertness. But wait, what does waking up in a good alert manner have to do with getting better sleep at night? If you're getting this good cortisol spike early as possible, it sets your body for sleep later that night. It already sets into motion your schedule for sleeping later on, allowing you to stick to regularity. Being alert as early as possible after waking will help you fall asleep quicker at night. So as I said, getting sunlight first thing helps with that. If it's sunny, you only need about 5 minutes. If it's cloudy, you need about 10 minutes. And if it's completely overcast, about 20 minutes. If you miss a day, try and get twice as much duration of light the next day. You don't have to walk necessarily, but if you do get some early steps in, it has the added benefit of really setting your mindset for the day. You're getting your first steps in early, and you're shaping your mind to be disciplined that day for your weight loss goal. Now we can't talk about sleep without talking about caffeine. Caffeine is a psychoactive stimulant that increases the hormone dopamine, and it blocks something called adenosine. Adenosine is this chemical that builds up naturally in our body during the day and makes us feel sleepy by nighttime. Caffeine blocks that. So a good rule of thumb is to try and refrain from caffeine about 8 to 10 hours before your bedtime. Caffeine has a half-life of about 5 to 6 hours, which means half of the caffeine is broken down in that 5 or 6 hours. That still leaves a quarter of it in your system about 12 hours later. If you do regularly take caffeine late in the day and you don't think it affects you, think again, it probably does. Caffeine will affect your deep sleep without you really knowing until you wake up tired and groggy the next day. Caffeine makes you have lighter sleeps, more prone to disruption. It warps the quality and the restorative nature of sleep. So you may think you're getting a proper sleep, it may even be a long sleep, but the quality won't be great and you won't even be aware of it. So keep your caffeine to the morning and early afternoon. Then try and avoid it altogether or consider switching to decaf. People turn their nose up at decaf all the time. Keep an open mind. Be honest with yourself. Can you really even tell any difference in taste? But that's entirely up to you, of course. So a final word on sleep. We should think of sleep as a life support system. Vital for overall health and vital to keep you going with your weight loss journey. So your task is this. Set yourself a nighttime routine and morning routine to ensure you're getting enough sleep every night using the tips in this video. For example, dim the lighting in the house and avoid screens before bed. Sleep in silence or with consistent background noise, and sleep in darkness. In the morning, get some sunlight and get some steps first thing. Start new habits. Get rid of old ones. You have power over your habits, not the other way around. Don't let your old bad habits dictate how you live your life, especially if they're making you unhealthy. We touched on binge eating in this video and how easy it is to fall into a binge. If you want to shift your mindset when binging, you can watch the video on screen now. So thanks for watching and I'll see you soon.